If you're a data processor in India, your whole world is pretty much defined by contracts, right? But what if you could actually change the game? What if you could become a leader in data trust instead of just a contractor following orders? Well, we're about to break down a new framework designed to do exactly that, the DGPSI-DP. Now, this framework didn't just appear out of thin air. You see, it's part of the DGPSI family of compliance standards, a whole set of frameworks proudly developed right here in India for the specific challenges and opportunities of our own digital economy.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll dive into the dilemma that every data processor is facing. Then we'll look at a major gap in the current frameworks before introducing the solution, DGPSI-DP. After that, we'll talk about the goal, becoming something called an emancipated processor, check out the blueprint to get there, and then wrap up with a big question for the future. So let's kick things off with the core problem, what we're calling the data processor's dilemma. And it really all comes down to living in the shadow of the data fiduciary. Okay, let's get on the same page real quick. A data processor, that's just any company that handles personal data for another company, the data fiduciary. And as you can see, the entire relationship, the whole shebang, is governed by the contract between them. Now, under India's Digital Personal Data Protection Act, the DPDPA, the law is super clear. All the legal obligations, all the penalties, they all land squarely on the data fiduciary. The processor, they're really only on the hook for what's in their contract. So here's the key takeaway. If a processor messes up, it's the fiduciary who carries all the legal and financial risk. This kind of setup, well, it creates a pretty significant gap, especially when you start looking at how things are done internationally. And that brings us to the big contrast with GDPR. And wow, when you put them side by side, the difference is huge. Under India's DPDPA, a processor's liability is indirect. It's all filtered through that contract. But under Europe's GDPR, nope, the liability is direct. Processors can get hit with massive fines from regulators and even get sued directly by people whose data was mishandled. It is a completely different ballgame. And look, for any Indian processor that handles data from the EU, these GDPR rules are very, very real. They have to provide security guarantees, they've got to report breaches to their client immediately, they might even need to appoint a data protection officer, and yep, they can face those massive fines directly. It really highlights a major mismatch in what's expected globally versus locally. So this gap, which isn't really covered by other big standards like ISO 27701, it leads to one pretty clear conclusion. Having a framework made specifically for Indian data processors isn't just a nice to have, it's absolutely necessary. And that necessity, well, it's the mother of invention, right? It has led directly to a purpose-built solution, and that is DGPSI-DP. So the answer to this whole dilemma is the Data Governance and Protection Standard of India for data processors, or much easier to say, DGPSI-DP. It is a framework built from the ground up, specifically for the Indian context. So what is it exactly? Well, think of it as a voluntary standard. It's designed to work perfectly with India's DPDPA, and it lets data processors choose to go above and beyond their basic contract. It's a way to proactively adopt a much higher standard of compliance and fill those gaps we just talked about.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Adopting this framework isn't just about checking off a few compliance boxes. It's about achieving a totally new status, what the framework actually calls becoming an emancipated processor.
So what on earth is an emancipated data processor? Well, it's a processor who gets certified under this framework because they voluntarily decided to act as if they were a data fiduciary, a deemed fiduciary, even though the law doesn't make them. It's like they're emancipating themselves from just being a follower and becoming a true strategic partner.
At the end of the day, this is really positioned as an ethical move. It's a way to build incredible trust with your clients by proving you're already operating at the highest standard. And let's be honest, that is a massive competitive advantage.
Okay, so that all sounds great in theory, right? But how does a company actually do this? Let's get into the DGPSI-DP blueprint. It's all based on a set of what are called Model Implementation Specifications, or MIS.
Now, to make the 25 different specifications a lot easier to handle, we can actually group them into 3 core pillars. This structure really helps to see the path forward to becoming an emancipated processor.
Pillar 1 is all about governance and risk. Think of this as building the foundation. It means creating a formal structure with clear roles, like a compliance manager, and having solid processes for assessing risk. Basically, you're putting the strategic oversight in place before you even touch the data.
Pillar 2 is all about policies and procedures. This is your operational rulebook. It covers everything from mapping your data flows to setting rules for your subcontractors and any data transfers. And critically, it forces you to have a clear, documented plan for what to do when, not if, a data breach happens. It's all about making your data handling predictable, repeatable, and safe.
And finally, Pillar 3 covers technology and people. This means having strong security controls, of course, but it also focuses heavily on the human element, with training and clear policies for new tech like AI. It even suggests cool tools like a pseudonymization gateway to help mask data. It's about securing both your systems and the people who use them.
So, with this really comprehensive blueprint laid out, it brings up a huge question for the entire Indian tech ecosystem. Are we ready for this future?
And the creators of the framework are very clear about this. This is a proposal, a new standard being offered to the industry. Its success, at the end of the day, totally depends on adoption. How are companies going to react to this call for a voluntary, ethical step up?
And that brings it all right back home. While the industry as a whole decides its path, the question for every single data processor out there is much more personal. Is this your chance to stop living in the fiduciary's shadow and to start leading the way in data protection?